Welcome back to the Pursuit of Growth live chat number 4. I'm Greg Brinkley.
And I'm Sammy Gonzalez.
And today we're going to talk about one of the most important chapters of our upcoming book. And that chapter is character. And Sammy, you want to give kind of a little bit of an intro of why we feel that's important and why we chose to talk about character today?
Yeah, definitely. Last week we were talking about probably my favorite chapter of the book, which is on attitude, because I think everything kind of stems from that, and it's something that you can easily change, um, and change for the better and for the worse, we should say as well. But we focus on getting better. But the chapter on character, I think, is really important because I think everything rolls down to that fundamental truth of your character, and it's something you can build upon. It's something you can grow in, and I think that if anything, you can focus on character and your attitude, and you're going to be down the right path of really making an impact on your life. So, Greg, I think you were mentioning whenever you were putting the book together in the outline, you were going back and forth between character and attitude and which one should go first. And I think ultimately, reason may be forgotten, but you went with character first. But tell us a little bit about your thoughts on character in general, and your thoughts on why maybe their character and attitude are 1A and 1B.
Yeah, you're exactly right with that. I think character and attitude are so linked together. And we were talking previously. There's a quote that I heard someone say years and years ago that's always resonated with me, and it goes along the lines of how you think is how you act, and how you act is how you live. And character, or the moral and the qualities that are distinct to an individual. How do you behave? And whether it's around people, whether it's at home with your family, when there's nobody around that's watching, what is your character? How do you go about living your life, the decisions that you make, the morals that you choose to abide by? And as you can imagine, there's so many different character traits that are important, and we actually outline many of those that we believe are universal in our book. Things like boldness, ambition, empathy, and the list goes on and on and on and on. But ultimately, similar to our conversation on attitude, character is something that you and I both believe that people should be working on every single day. And so I think it starts with defining, what are the character traits that you believe are important? What are the character traits that you believe are going to allow you to both excel as an individual in this world, and how are they going to allow you to be able to benefit others? And I think, like all the different items that we talk about, once you kind of define what those things are, what are ways that you can start growing in those character traits and being able to live those out? And I just think it's one of the most important things that we can do in our life. And again, I think it's a daily habit that's so important to implement.
Yeah, and I went ahead and grabbed the book, which is actually out on sale now. You can get that at our website at livetpg.com. But I pulled out the book because I wanted to go over that list that we have here in character, which it's always identifying opportunities to grow in your character. And I'll just read some of them, but I think you're absolutely right in your statements. So you want to be growing in your character, and some of those different character traits are your ambition, your boldness, your courage, your decisiveness, your dependability. And I'll stop right there because I have a story about this, and you might not even know this. But a long time ago, when we were first before we even started working together, you apply for the job at Bogo Alco. And I was there, and we are talking to our CEO, and you were actually coming in for an interview, and it might have been after the interview. And the team was talking about you and saying, given that, what do you know about Greg, that kind of stuff. And I said, well, Greg's the type of person that I feel that if I needed to, I mean, excluding family or my wife or whatever, if I needed to pick up the phone and call somebody, that's the person that I know would answer. If they didn't answer, they'd call me back quickly because maybe you're just indisposed for a moment or two. But I think that speaks to your character too, and it's something that you work on as well. And I think that's important to have inside you when you're looking at character. when I am thinking about character, about myself, I look to other people in which I have found traits about them that make me smile or make me remember them by. And it's not just fleeting things like, oh, they were nice to me. Like I look at their mannerisms, I look at the way they go about their business, go about their day. I look at what other people say about them. And that's how I can really start to judge how that person is. There's something to say about being a hard worker, right? But it's like they're a hard worker, but they're fair, or they treat people well. Like that. Those different words, those have always stuck with me, even since I was a little kid. So, I think character for me, again, is 1A with attitude. They can really go hand in hand. But character, I try and find ways that in mentors or whatever it may be that will help me grow in some of those areas in which I'm trying to get better at as well, my overall character.
Yeah, it's. I think we talk about this in the book where in today's world, today's society, so much importance is placed on accolades and achievement, victories, outcomes. Bring that into materialism. Acquiring things. The way that we tend to sometimes look at people and on a surface level define if they're successful or not tends to, in many cases, fall into some of those superficial type things, which none of those things are bad in and amongst themselves. But I personally would argue that the accomplishment of any of those items without character is no accomplishment at all. And so whether you've got somebody that's excelling and growing and achieving things, and if they're doing that with bad character or lack of morals, in my world, that's not a win. And for somebody that can do those things while distributing good character, and again, good character, what does that mean? I think that, again, in the book, the list that you started reading, and I'd love for you to go through and continue reading that here in a second. But I think, those items that we listed are pretty much universally accepted character traits that I don't think anybody would make an argument to say that growing in those areas is not of benefit. I think we were very careful in picking things that were holistic and really covered kind of the grand scheme of human life that were just beneficial to people. And it's amazing to me when I look at that list, I can literally see myself and ask myself, wow, this week, where can I be more bold? This week, where can I be more empathetic? This week, where can I grow in my courage? And when you have that mindset to start thinking about your life in those ways, I think it just gives you so many opportunities to be able to excel in situations that otherwise you may not. And I find that when you live with good character, you actually set yourself up for more of those different types of achievement that some people do define as being superficial, just because of, some people say it's karma. I don't necessarily know that I believe in karma or not. I just believe that when you're living your life and doing things well for other people, you put yourself in a position for other people to want to do things good for you. And it's this circle of life, I think, that's just a really, really, really cool thing that comes from good character.
Yeah, and there's a statement in the book that I was looking at here just right now too that I think is so true, and I'm glad we added this in there. But and I just lost it. Here it is. Your character is based on the principle of doing the right thing, regardless of whether or not someone is there to see it. And it's funny because I have an example of that that I want to share, and then I'll read this other bullet points. But it's just the little things, and this is where I catch myself. This is how granular I can get when I'm thinking about my character from time to time. Is washing my hands in a public restroom. Right, happened more than 2 months ago now since we've been on our current state of semi lockdown. But wadding up the paper towels as I'm walking out, chunking it over the trash can, and then I miss, right, and it falls on the ground. Now I have the choice to to leave that there or pick that up. But a good person, someone that's looking out for other people, someone that's actually caring about their environment, someone that's self-aware, walks over, picks it up, and throws it away. Or if you don't have to pick up after everybody else, but if you have the opportunity, maybe pick up another piece that's laying there and you've done, just know no one else has to know about that, but I feel like it's my duty to do it. it kind of gets it can get a little too much. Like if some people in Dallas remember the great scooter craze and bike craze that was happening, like the ride share bikes and the scooter shares. Um, I was one of those people that would typically, if I saw a scooter laying on the ground, tumped over, I would pick it back up and just put it up and just say, like, we all need to have a little bit of self respect for ourselves and the way we go about it and for our city and everything. And but sometimes there's 20 of them laying on the ground and you're like, okay, I can't, I'm walking in between meetings, I don't have an opportunity to pick all these up. I can't stop all of them. So there's a little bit there, but I just want to share that example because that's how I look at it too. It's like, what are some of the things that you do when other people aren't looking, that they don't necessarily even care that you do, but you've done it for the right reasons because you want to grow in your character.
Yeah, and I think that's a great example, Sammy, of the little things add up. And if you make it a habit of yourself to really emphasize on even these small things when no one's around, that go into me building my character, that sets you up for those scenarios when the big things happen. And we've all heard the conversation about true character is shown when the challenge arises and people's true colors come out. And there's a lot of truth in that. When we get pressed and we get situations where the answer is not clear or the obstacle is huge. Well, in many cases, you see people in terms of their temper, their anger, pointing fingers, the victim mentality, fear, all those different types of things just take into place. But when you're working on your character and you're working on how should I behave, how should I act, how should I handle myself when I'm in situations of stress. And again, that's where attitude and character do obviously come close together. But I think one of the biggest benefits of growing in your character is it builds trust. And trust is one of those items that if you're a person that other people trust, it just opens up the world to you. If you're a person that other people do not trust, well, those doors begin to close. And I think we all know people in our lives that, again, you made the amazing compliment to me, and I say the same thing about you. There's an inner circle of people, and it's very, very, very small that I go to when times are really tough, or I just need um, to share challenges, struggles, whatever it might be. And those people, the commonalities, they all have amazing character for me. And I'll have trust in them that I know that I can go to those people. And then that leads me to something else that I think is important is your character is so heavily influenced by the people that you spend time with. And while we all try to act like other people don't influence us, they absolutely do. And so one of the best ways you can grow in good character is making sure you're surrounding yourself with people that have the character traits that you aspire to not only have, but continue to grow in.
Yeah, what's the saying? You are the sum of the five people you hang around the most, or I totally butchered that, but
Well,
basically,
I think you got it. The other one is you can't fly with the eagles if you're running with the turkeys, right? You heard that one?
no,
I
I
may mess
haven't.
that up too.
That's a good one. Yeah, that one's a good one. But yeah, I mean, that's the same, exactly what you're saying, and it's amazing to see it. If you think about it from a teamwork standpoint as well, think about your daily life and your jobs and or your workplace, but you have those people that are your go-to people that will never let you down, no matter what. Even if you stress them, they'll even tell you, they'll be the first ones to tell you, like, hey, I think we can do this. It might not happen. I will try my best to make it happen. And you're confident in them to do that. And then there's those people that have just burned you a couple times, and like me, I give second, third chances sometimes, and you always get burned by that. But I think if you continue to do the little things, and the little things about growing in your character, and you're surrounding yourself with the people that are also have good character and also are appreciative of other people that have good character, then you're running with those like-minded individuals. I would say that oftentimes the weak links are the people of the weaker mindset, for better or worse, or maybe they're not working on it yet. They will be attracted to start thinking differently and start acting differently, and that's where you can really begin to help influence and change someone's life. because they see you doing those little things. You're not asking them to do much. You're not telling them, look at what I'm doing. They will start to pick up on those little things, and it really will make a difference to other people.
Yeah, and I look back on my life, and the genesis of the book, like we've shared in some of these chats previously, it's really about you and I and our commitment to living a life of pursuing growth in what we've identified as the key areas of life. And the book kind of documents my struggles in many of these areas. And in terms of character, two of the areas that I really had gotten into some bad habits is one was lying, and to kind of expand on that, one of the challenges that I had was I found that when I was pressed for time, when I found myself in a situation where I may have made a mistake and didn't want to be embarrassed because I failed, or if it was a situation where I thought I could impress somebody, I was quick. And I mean, I had both six guns loaded with just little white lies that I would just shoot out constantly. And it really started messing with, I think, my moral fabric, because deep down inside, I knew that I was basically becoming a person that wasn't trustworthy. And I got to a point to where I was so ashamed of myself because my typical day was just filtered with just lie after lie after lie. And it got so bad that it was meaningless things. Someone would even ask me like what I had for lunch, and I'd make up a story about something and just lie about it for
Had a
no reason.
blue, had a blue whale sandwich today.
Yeah, it just lying became a habitual part of my life. And in the book I talk about, I kind of had this emotional breakdown. And one of the things that I realized is I've really got to grow in my character in terms of my honesty, and how do you go about doing that? And so, for me, and again, everyone has different systems and different things they work through. And this was a point where the plan that we put together, we didn't actually have this plan at this time, but for me, it was just an attitude of saying, okay, each and every day, I'm going to have a goal to, no matter how difficult the circumstance or how hard it might be to admit some hard to admit truths, I'm not going to lie. And every day, when I go through that entire day and I can tell myself, wow, I was honest in every single situation, I would give myself a check mark for that day. And I made a goal of going, I think it was a month, of just getting all check marks. But I had to define myself, where are those areas where I'm really challenged? And so again, one of the big ones was when I felt like I was pressed for time. So for instance, let's say that, man, I felt like I needed to get somewhere quick and you came and asked me for a favor. I would make up a lie and tell you why I couldn't help you, because in my mind, I didn't want to stop and be inconvenienced for where I wanted to go. Instead of just being truthful and say, hey, I really got to run to my next appointment. How, can we revisit this when I'm back?
Yeah.
So much easier for me just to lie and move on. Or it might be if I made a mistake. Well, I wasn't told that. Or actually, I didn't do that. I was told something differently. And I just would make excuse and lie after lie. And again, it took a lot of work. And of course, none of us are perfect. But getting to a point where I believe now that people, when I talk and I speak, people trust me because they know I'm a person that is not a liar, that doesn't get into any of that garbage, has really, really just changed the way that my attitude even functions. So that was a character trait that I really had to work on, years and years ago.
I think I've always told people and I've always been guilty of that too. I mean, when I was younger and growing up, and it's something I work on to this day is what type of character do I want to have. I pass those things down to my kids as well, as what character traits I hope that they pick up as well. But to say that, I used to have the joke is that I don't like lying because I can't remember what the lie is. And so like it's so much easier to have a clean conscience when you just tell the truth. And that's what I tell my kids too. Is like there's no need to lie. Just tell the truth. If you messed up, you messed up. Or, if you did something wrong, you did something wrong. Like learn from it. But don't cover it up because you're gonna forget it and you're gonna get in a bigger pickle than you already are. And of course, parents, we know everything. So at
Yeah.
least that's what we have to tell everyone, right? But I wanted to bring up stuff about my kids because it's something I wanted to pass down. My mom had a phrase that she used to tell me that kind of goes to my self-awareness, but also my character and my attitude is she's always telling me this, and my sisters will still to this day will laugh, but she would tell me, "Come on, use your head for something more than a hat rack." And it was just like, I'm like, oh, it's like I used to just not really, pay attention to some different things. And so as I'm wearing my hat now, but yeah, that phrase always stuck with me. So when we had my kids and I would drop them off at school, I always wanted to leave them with something that they would have throughout the rest of the day that they could at least hopefully remember in some of their circumstances that they come into. Self awareness is really big for me, but I always tell them, I said, I want you to do these four things. I make them report these repeat these four words to me every single day: be kind, be helpful, be smart, and be brave. Those four things, I think I just want them to remember. And hopefully those kind of encompass most of the situations that they're going to be in. But I think if they can remember to do those things, that it would really help build their character. But I always tell them the number one thing that I tell them, the number one order, I don't care what order they go in, as long as the first one goes first, and that's be kind. I said, as long as you're kind to other people, then the other things will fall into place. Now, some people may not reciprocate, but they will know that you were at least kind to them. So I think as you start to build that as a parent, at least, and I'm the last to probably be giving parenting advice, but as a parent, I try and think about those things. It's a good thing to also remind the kids that they can start working on their character now. And then hopefully with inside the book, there's some of those things that you can look at your kids and maybe find little games or ways that you can implement those with your kids to learn how to grow in some of the other ones, like growing in your forgiveness, your generosity, honesty, honor, patience, persuasiveness, politeness, punctuality, responsibility, self-control, and then of course your trustworthiness, to kind of round out that list. But I think it's a very comprehensive list that we haven't listed in the book.
Yeah, one of the habits that I picked up on is every week I'll look at actually that list. Before we had it in the book form, we had it in a manuscript,
Mhm.
and I actually had that page pulled out. And a couple pages later, we talk about think about situations in your upcoming week where you can be bold and not timid. Where can you be honest and not dishonest? And start thinking of your week that way, and maybe pick one or two areas that you really want to grow in. And I can just share that in certain circumstances in my professional work, we're all of our jobs, we're faced with challenges and circumstances where you have to have difficult conversations, or maybe you've got to make presentations, or you've got to take on some big projects. They're going to be difficult, and you're going to have some challenges along those ways. And so one of the things recently I did was say, okay, well, I like to consider myself a pretty bold person in general. I've worked on that throughout my life. But I said, okay, well, where are situations this upcoming week that I know I'm going to need to be bold, and I'm going to need to really actually act out that character trait? And thinking about that in advance really helped me on, one, situations that I knew were coming up, meetings that I had where I knew I had to have some tough conversations, and two, in circumstances that I did not know were going to come up and they appeared out of nowhere. And in my mind, I was like, wow, this is an opportunity for me to be bold. And that just gave me the motivation to say, okay, I need to step forward and take this certain action. And I think the same can be done with kindness, with politeness, with trustworthiness, with empathy. I love that you said punctuality. I actually forgot about that one.
Mhm.
Man, punctuality, what an amazing character trait that more people, I guarantee, have opportunities to grow in. But what does that mean? So where are circumstances this week where you can be punctual and reward yourself for that?
I saw a meme floating around social media that we're currently in the COVID-19 crisis right now, and sheltering in place, and things are opening up a little bit more. So we're kind of in that phase. What I don't know if we said the date. Today's May 7th, 2020. And so, but the meme was basically saying, I'm sorry for all those times that I was 30 minutes late to your party. You can expect me to be there early to help set up from now on. It's
Yeah,
like, but it's again, it's a character trait. I'm notorious for getting places early because I don't want to be that late person. I'll go and sit in the car and wait, 10 minutes before I even have to walk in, and I'll still be 10 minutes early, but that's just I look back at every situation that I try to find myself in when I have the opportunity, when I find myself in that having that choice to say, what's the right thing to do? What should you be doing now? And are you about to do wrong or are you about to do right? And it's a constant struggle. Not that there's anything crazy going on, but just even with those little things, picking up that piece of paper, throwing that thing away. Oh, I can leave that there for tomorrow. You know what? If I moved it today, it'd be better on other people tomorrow. So again, it's a constant thing to be working on, but character is not something um, that's built just overnight either, especially if other people are taking notice. That it's going to take a long time to gain that trust, but it does come down to trust, just like you mentioned it.
And I think we mentioned this in a conversation that we had prior to this chat. You will always be amazed at how many people are watching you and noticing the things that you do. One other item I'll share that I had to really work on was I got in a bad habit of treating people differently based on what I thought they could do for me. So if you were somebody who I thought by me giving you good character, I would receive some type of benefit from that relationship or whatever, I would treat you a lot differently than I would somebody who I deemed as, okay, that person really can't help me. And I say that to emphasize that so many bad character traits are rooted in selfishness. And I think it's having, again, going back to that attitude of thinking about others, thinking about love and service, thinking about yourself, not only being an important item to work on, but how can you also work to help other people? You've got to work on yourself, of course. You've got to be able to do both. And at different times, you've got to work differently on different things. But I think that having that attitude of really overcoming selfishness helps you to be able to embrace good character traits, because the reality is oftentimes by displaying good character, you will most likely have some adverse reactions. So for instance, for me, in the example I talked about earlier, for me to tell the truth about making a mistake, I'm going to have to then accept the consequence of that mistake, where had I lied about it and got away with it, I might be able to skip that and kind of move on and be like, whoo, dodge that bullet. But it's always going to end up coming back to you, whether it's your conscience that starts weighing on you, or the habit you start building and the trust you start losing from other people, or the fact that if you dodged a minor mistake and people find out you lied about it later, well, then that becomes a major issue that has even bigger consequences and wherever that may be. And so good character is always the right choice, but it may bring additional hardships. And so again, having the mindset of being able to see the value in the challenge and the value in the trial and accepting extreme ownership, it's tough, but it's absolutely worth it.
Yep. And I think also the hardest thing to do is to make those decisions when you're alone. Like we already talked about, like, you don't do it for other people to see it, but to even the small things, getting up early to work out, if that's something you've told yourself you're going to do. I struggle with that. I get up early and go for runs or do exercises here at home. It's like, it's on me. It's part of me. Am I going to get up today or am I going to sleep in? And I think about it. It's like, I know that I want to look at the person and I want to be the person that is the one that got up and did the work, that did my workout early, got it all done, took care of business. And it's important to me to do that. And the people that have asked me, even in different roles, positions within companies and stuff, they're the people that can put stuff on me because they understand that it's going to get done. It's going to be done right. And it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of effort. But, eventually it's going to pay off, and you're not looking for the payoff. You're helping other people, like you mentioned. But I think that's a really good point that you just made that a lot of people have to remember as well.
Yeah. Well, I think kind of I guess in summation, we're kind of getting up to the 30-minute mark.
Yeah.
But I think really what I'd like to share with the listeners is identify what are the character traits that you feel are important to your life right now, whether those are character traits that you're really strong in or character traits that you have opportunity to grow in, and write those things down. I think we're fortunate that I don't think there's a lot of misunderstanding of why certain character traits are important. I think most of this is common sense. We've been brought up in a culture that has done a good job of teaching why it's good to be honest and not dishonest, why there's value in patience versus being impatient, why it's good to be able to hold your temper versus being a person that just completely full of outbursts. So we know why these things are important. But I think what at least I didn't do for the longest time was prioritize and intentionally say, how can I work on these areas? And that would be my challenge to people, is define what those character traits are you want to work on, and then think about circumstances, whether it's this week, this month, or this year, that you can display those. And I think I'll just kind of sum it up for me. It's, again, I just love this thing, how you think determines how you act, and how you act determines how you live. So let's put priority in how we act and emphasize that that's going to help us live better.
Yeah, I think you wrapped it up very nicely, and I don't have much more to say. So, on that note, I think that we've summarized the chapter of character. Again, you can go to our website, livetpg.com. A copy of the book is out there. It's awaiting for you to pick one up and read through, and we'd love to hear some feedback. We have all the social media channels too, so you can go on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We'll be doing a little bit more of these live chats as we're kind of sheltered in place, where we have a podcast that's going on. We've put that on pause for a little bit just because of the current situation and some social distancing regulations that we're trying to follow and be good stewards, having good character, and doing some of the right things that we're supposed to be doing, that being asked to be doing. But yeah, so go to our website, Live TPG. Lots of hard work's been done on that. We appreciate everyone that's helped us get that to where it is now. The book is for sale. And Greg, I appreciate your time that you spent with us tonight. And I know I look forward to these chats every time, and I know other people do as well. So thanks again for always sharing it and being an open book, and for being part of the Pursuit Growth.
Awesome, man. Next time. Peace.